name is Christopher McGee. I'm the owner of Halcyon Real Estate. I'm affiliated with the Keller Williams Market Center in Salt Lake City, Utah. And this is the Real Estate Numbers, where every week I'm tracking 7 specific numbers directly from our MLS system here because I want to provide you with the unadulterated information that I have access to as a realtor. Now, I'll give you my take on those facts because my advice is worth something, but I do want you to have access to the facts and you can make decisions with them as you will. Okay, so let's look at this last week's numbers. I'll tell you whether the number is up or down from the previous week and whether we're seeing any trends. Let's do this. All right, first, our inventory. The number of current actives that we have on the market is currently, as of this morning, sitting at 6,555. It's virtually the same as the prior week, which was 6,550. And so we're not seeing any real trend there. It was on a downward trend, and we've had 2 weeks of it not really moving. So I don't call 2 weeks a trend. It's not moving up or down as of the last couple of weeks. That's the number, that's where it is from last week, and that's what I see. Number 2 is our active days on market on average. So it's the average number of days that it takes for a property to have been put on market, how long it is before it gets an offer and they accept it and they go under contract. Right now that is 50, and that's just covering what the average was for the last week. So it's down 4 days from the prior week, which was up 4 days from the week before that, and really it's kind of sitting where it's been in the 50s. Not really a trend unless we look over the last 4 months. At the beginning of the year, we were looking at the high 60s. And so, you know, if the trend continues, it's a slow one, and maybe in the middle of summer, we'd be down to 40 days on average. Our third number is the difference between the average list price and the average sold price. So let's look at what those average prices were. Last week, the average list price came to $641,090, where the average sold price came to $631,101. Difference between those two numbers being $9,989, just shy of 10K. That's kind of where it's been for the last bit. For the last couple of months, I would say. So, I mean, it's down 2K from what it was the previous week. When I say down, I mean closer to zero. Closer to no difference between what the asking price is and what the actual sold price of a home is. Number of homes sold last week was 463, and that is down almost 60. It's down about 60 from our prior week. The trend was going up, and this breaks the trend. It's not a new trend because 1 week does not a trend make, but the trend was headed up. Now we're down about 60. I'll have some thoughts on that in my take after we go over the rest of these numbers. Our next number is the number of properties under contract, and that includes those properties that are under contract and taking backup offers. All of this comes to 5,265. That's up just shy of 200 from the week before, and this is as high as we've seen it for the time that I've been doing this since about last Halloween. Yeah, we haven't seen it over 5,200. So that number is still trending up. Our number of price reductions, second to last number we're looking at, our number of price reductions was 602, which is exactly the same as it was the last week. It was on a trend headed down, and last week the trend broke with that 602 number that we've repeated this week. So trend broke, hasn't really gone anywhere. And our final number is, as always, the number of properties, or listings I should say, the number of listings that were either canceled from the MLS, expired on the MLS, or withdrawn from the MLS. And that number comes to 252, down just 8 from the prior week, and still on a trend down overall, and that's what the numbers tell us. So here's my take. Last week, in last week's video, we said that the market was still trending in favor of sellers overall, and that we saw a couple of numbers put a momentary pause to that trend, namely our inventory and our number of price reductions. Well, as you may have noticed, this week those two numbers stayed virtually the same. Now, I can't say that 2 weeks makes a trend, but I will say that perhaps what's happening is that with spring, it's not just more buyers coming to the market, but it's also more sellers. And we anticipate that. What it looks like may be happening is that there's enough sellers coming to the market that it's blunting the downward march of inventory that we had, that we would have continued to expect with the number of buyers coming into the market that always do in the spring. And perhaps with the stoppage of diminishing inventory, sellers feel the need to reduce their prices a little more often, and that's what we saw with that 602 number of price reductions in the last couple of weeks. But like I said, 2 weeks is not a trend make, and significantly, even with the recent relative uptick in price reductions, the difference between our average list price and our average sold price has stayed essentially the same. On average, 10K in the buyer's favor. And that tells me that more sellers are being more realistic more often about what they should sell their homes for in the first place. And that's a good thing. Okay, last thing, our number of homes sold came down, as I said, by about 60, but our number of homes under contract came up by about 200. The fact that the number of properties under contract has come up by about 200 tells us that the number of properties sold in the prior week cannot continue to march down, because homes that have gone under contract generally become homes that have been sold. And because you can't have an increasing input that leads to a decreasing output, we expect to see about 200 homes sold increase within the next month. All right, guys, that's it this week. If you have any questions about anything that we went over and questions about what any of the numbers I go over mean in more detail, hit me up in the comments and I will answer those questions. And if you know, or if you are someone who's thinking of moving in the coming months, then feel free to reach out to me either in the comments or by email, or you can text me or call me. So my phone number is 801-834-9713. And my email address is christopher.mcgee@kw.com. And if you'd like to stay educated on what's going on in the Utah real estate market, there's not going to be a better way than to hit subscribe and stay as educated as I am from week to week with these real estate numbers. We'll see you next week, guys. Have a good one.